ด็กๆที่เดินอยู่ในถนนนะเราไม่รู้ว่าอนาคตอาจจะเป็นนายกรัฐมนตรีก็ได้อะ
การศึกษาทำให้มีการพัฒนาศักยภาพของมนุษย์
แต่ตัวแปรที่สำคัญมากที่สุดเลยเนี่ยก็คือครู
การศึกษาเป็นพื้นฐานสำคัญในการพัฒนาประเทศคณะผู้บริหารกระทรวงศึกษาธิการทุกระดับเป็นกุญแจสำคัญแห่งความสำเร็จในการสร้างเยาวชนของชาติครูยังคงเป็นกำลังสำคัญที่จะช่วยในการปฏิรูปการศึกษา
If I were you, it's going to be the same. It would be the same.
เพื่อให้การจัดการเรียนการสอนของครูมีความทันสมัยและเพื่อพัฒนาเยาวชนในศตวรรษที่ 21 ให้ก้าวทันต่อกาลสมัยมูลนิธิศักดิ์พรทรัพย์เห็นความสำคัญจึงมีความมุ่งมั่นที่จะมีส่วนร่วมในการส่งเสริมและพัฒนาครูทั่วประเทศโดยการสรรหาผู้เชี่ยวชาญในแต่ละสาขามาให้การอบรมเกี่ยวกับหลักสูตรการเรียนการสอนการสร้างสื่อนวัตกรรมและเทคโนโลยีที่ทันสมัยเพื่อให้ครูนำไปถ่ายทอดให้กับเยาวชนทั่วประเทศต่อไป
คือคำตอบเนี้ยเป็นคำตอบที่ทุกคนต้องตอบร่วมกันว่าดีเนาะแต่ปุ้ยต้องตอบว่ามันดีอย่างไร
พัฒนาการศึกษาไทยเพื่อตอบแทนคุณแผ่นดินเกิดและผู้มีพระคุณนี่แหละคือสิ่งที่เราหามาตลอด
เวลาเราจะปฏิรูปการศึกษาเนี่ยมันมีตัวแปรเยอะแยะเลยแต่ตัวแปรที่สำคัญมากที่สุดเลยเนี่ยก็คือครู
ถ้าเขามาเจอกันบ่อยๆมันจะเข้าคอนเซ็ปต์ที่เป็นเหมือนลักษณะของ PLC เขาจะได้แลกเปลี่ยนปัญหาประสบการณ์ที่เขาได้รับอ่ะอันนี้คือสิ่งหนึ่งที่เรารู้สึกว่าเขาได้จากที่นี่เขาได้เครือข่ายครูเพิ่มขึ้น
ในท้ายที่สุดการเปลี่ยนแปลงเล็กๆนี้มันจะเป็นการจุดประกายแล้วก็ทำให้เกิดการเปลี่ยนแปลงที่ยิ่งใหญ่ขึ้นในอนาคต
เป้าหมายของมูลนิธิได้มองเห็นปัญหาของประเทศชาติสิ่งนี้เป็นสิ่งที่ทำให้เกิดการเปลี่ยนแปลงได้ดีที่สุด
เชื่อมั่นว่าการเปลี่ยนแปลงของระบบการศึกษาไทยมันจะเริ่มต้นจากจุดเล็กๆเสมอ
มันเป็น channel ที่ดีมากนะคะ
มูลนิธิศักดิ์พรทรัพย์ไม่ต้องการสิ่งตอบแทนใดขอเพียงเพื่อตอบแทนแผ่นดินเกิดและผู้มีพระคุณอย่างต่อเนื่องและยั่งยืน
สวัสดีค่ะวันนี้เราจะมาเรียนรู้กับวิทยากรชาวต่างชาติในโมดูล 3 การเรียนรู้โดยอิงหลักภาษาหรือ language focused learning ภายใต้โครงการเสริมสร้างศักยภาพในการจัดการเรียนรู้วิชาภาษาอังกฤษระดับประถมศึกษาดิฉันผู้ช่วยศาสตราจารย์ดร.มินตราภูริปัญญาวานิชอาจารย์ประจำสถาบันภาษาจุฬาลงกรณ์มหาวิทยาลัยจะทำหน้าที่แปลสรุปการบรรยายในวันนี้ค่ะก่อนที่เราจะเริ่มอบรมกันดิฉันขอแนะนำวิทยากรของเราในเช้านี้นะคะศาสตราจารย์กิตติคุณดร.ร็อบ แดริงเป็นอดีตอาจารย์ประจำมหาวิทยาลัยนอร์เดมเซชินเมืองโอกายามะประเทศญี่ปุ่นอาจารย์เป็นผู้เชี่ยวชาญด้านการเรียนการสอนคำศัพท์และการอ่านอย่างกว้างขวางนอกจากนี้ค่ะอาจารย์ยังเป็นวิทยากรทั้งในงานประชุมวิชาการการสอนและการอบรมครูใน32ประเทศด้วยกันค่ะสำหรับผลงานตีพิมพ์นะคะอาจารย์มีผลงานตีพิมพ์ทั้งบทความวิจัยและวิชาการมากกว่า60บทความและเมื่อปี2020ค่ะอาจารย์ได้ตีพิมพ์หนังสือ Teaching Extensive Reading in Another Language คู่กับศาสตราจารย์กิตติคุณพอเนชั่นซึ่งเป็นผู้เชี่ยวชาญด้านการเรียนการสอนreaders คืออะไรต้องรอฟังในการบรรยายช่วงเช้านี้นะคะ ปัจจุบันอาจารย์ตำแหน่งกรรมการบริหารมูลนิธิการอ่านอย่างกว้างขวางหรือ Extensive Reading Foundation และกรรมการที่ปรึกษาสมาคมการอ่านอย่างกว้างขวางในประเทศไทยหรือ Thailand Extensive Reading Association ตอนนี้ค่ะดิฉันเชื่อว่าทุกท่านพร้อมที่จะเรียนรู้ไปด้วยกันแล้วนะคะ Please welcome Professor Emeritus Rob Berry.
Hello, everybody. Good morning again. So let me just share my screen for you. It's coming up now. Okay, so you can see that okay? Yes, thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I am here in Japan, and I'm sitting at my computer, and it's a big shock to me this morning because it is so cold here right now. I now have 2 sweaters on. I've had no sweater for a while. Now I have 2 sweaters on, but it's only 17 degrees outside, but it feels like -3. It's really, really cold here. Anyway, I'm nice and warm. I've got my heater on, and I'm ready to start. Okay, so this is module 3, language-focused learning. This section is going to be a bit different from Ajahn Tati's sessions. This is more about the background to language-focused learning. Why do we do it? What are some of the limitations with it? And so on. So this is mostly a kind of theory or idea-based. And my aim today is to help you to have a framework, a structure in your mind to be able to look at the activities that you do, both the language-focused activities or meaning-focused activities, to have some kind of a structure or some kind of a framework in your mind that you could look at and decide if you're doing too much of something, not doing enough of something, are there some gaps in your curriculum, and so on and so on. So that's my aim today. But before we start, I want to have just a little quiz for you. And I want you to think about these questions. Now, in the chat window in a moment, I will put a questionnaire that I'd like you to have a look at. So please look at that in a moment or two. And the same questions are here. So let's have a look. How do you feel about these statements about how to teach a general English class? A general English class. I'm talking here not about a special English class for, say, business students or study abroad students or students who are learning the alphabet. Yeah, I'm talking about a general, normal English class, okay? So you can either strongly agree, somewhat disagree, or strongly disagree. The first one is the 4 skills are equally important: speaking, reading, writing, and listening. Do you think that one skill is more important than other skills? Next one, students should start their learning with a deep understanding of the rules of English. So this is basically saying that grammar is the center of language. We really need to master the grammar first. Do you agree or disagree? The main aim of teaching is to teach grammar and vocabulary. The main aim of teaching is to help students learn to communicate. We should use a textbook to teach because it provides a base for the course. Now, some people would say we don't need to use a textbook. I can just use my worksheets or things that I choose from this book or that book, or make my own book. So should we use a textbook to teach? Teachers should have freedom to conduct their class the way they want to. Now, some institutions say that the curriculum is fixed. Everybody should teach the same class. They should teach the same book. So if you have 5 classes, all second year English, all 5 classes should teach the same thing. Or do you think teachers should have freedom to decide what to teach? Next one. I've frozen. Okay, so all the classes at the same grade should be taught in the same way. That is, should all of the classes have exactly the same class? All third-year English classes have the same curriculum. Next one. It's important to follow the curriculum, or can I go outside the curriculum sometime? It's important to test students about what they've learned. And now the last one, there's probably one method of teaching which is better than others. So if you go to the chat window, please go to the chat window and you can click and see a questionnaire. And if you click on that, you should find our questionnaire for today, where you can answer these questions. You don't need to take a long time. You do not need to type in the chat window. Please do not type in the chat window. Please answer the questionnaire that you see in front. The link is in the chat window. Thank you.
ตอนนี้นะคะอาจารย์ได้ให้ผู้เข้าอบรมทุกท่านนะคะช่วยทำแบบสอบถามเบื้องต้นนะคะในการอบรมในวันนี้เพราะอยากจะดูว่าทุกท่านมีความคิดเห็นอย่างไรกับประเด็นต่างๆที่อาจารย์ได้แชร์ไปเมื่อสักครู่นี้นะคะทำจากลิงก์ที่ส่งให้ทางแชทเท่านั้นนะคะไม่ต้องพิมพ์ทางแชทนะคะขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you. We have 9 responses so far. Everybody's doing well. Thank you. Thank you. We have 19 responses so far. Let's wait until we have 50 or 60 or so. Maybe 50. 22. Thank you, everybody. So if you finish the survey, please think about these questions. We're going to be looking at an approach to language teaching, which will put these things in context for you. Maybe by the end of the session today, you'll change your mind. Maybe you'll stay the same. Maybe you'll change your mind. Let's see.
สำหรับท่านที่ทำแบบสอบถามเรียบร้อยแล้วนะคะอาจารย์อยากจะให้ทุกท่านได้ลองดูคำถามหรือประเด็นต่างๆที่ปรากฏในเซอร์เวย์นี้ค่ะหรือถ้าท่านที่ได้ดาวน์โหลดไฟล์มาแล้วนะคะท่านจะเห็นคำถามในสไลด์หน้าสีฟ้าใช่ไหมคะช่วยดูคำถามเหล่านั้นหรือ statement เหล่านั้นนะคะแล้วลองดูว่าในบริบทของการสอนของท่านใช้วิธีการแบบไหนรูปแบบไหนนะคะ
Okay, so let's look at the data. Let's look at the data for these questions. Put this back in here. Okay, so we're going to look at the responses. Here are the responses to the questions. So we have 38 responses at the moment, and this will change as the data comes in. So the first question is, you can see here we have strongly agree, somewhat agree, somewhat disagree, strongly agree. So the 4 skills are equally important. This is, most people would think so. We have 2 people disagree. The next question, students should start their learning with a thorough or deep understanding of the rules of English. And here we have probably quite a strong agreement that grammar or maybe vocabulary are the center of language, okay? The next one, the aim of to teach the grammar and vocabulary. Again, we have a mixed group there. In this one, the aim of teaching is to help students to learn to communicate. That we have, most people have said that, yeah? Most people it is, and we have 1 person disagrees, yes? So interestingly here, we have people saying students should start their learning with a thorough understanding of the rules of English. This one, the main aim is to teach grammar and vocabulary, but we have the main aim is to communicate. So we have a confusion here. We have some people saying communicate, some people also saying we need to teach grammar and vocabulary. So let's look at that. Okay, next one. We should use a textbook. Most people seem to agree. The next one, teachers should have freedom to conduct their class the way they want to, but we have some people disagree. About half of you disagree or don't strongly agree with this idea. Here, a very mixed bag. Some people say that all classes the same grade should be taught the same way. In Japan, that's very common. The idea is that the teaching should be fair. That is, all students should get the same input. They should get the same course, which seems to be fair. Of course, the problem is that not all students are the same level, and not all the students need the same thing. So again, it's important to follow the curriculum, but we have most of the people would say with that, yeah. And then this one, it's important to test the students. So testing does seem to be something you all agree with. And at the end here, there's probably one method which is better than others. Again, we have a very mixed group there. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, for all of that. I think that would show us some of the ways that most of you are currently thinking. So let me go back to the main session, to my presentation. Okay, so these are the questions that we were asking before. So the next questions, that's the questionnaire. So what aspect of English do you spend the most time teaching and doing? What aspect of English do you spend the most time teaching and doing? So I'd like you to talk about these questions a little bit. I want you to get into some groups. I'm going to put you into some groups now of maybe just, we have how many participants? We have 64. So I'll make about 30 rooms, something like that. 25 rooms, 20 rooms. Okay. So I'm going to put you into groups now for a short time. Please talk about these questions here. What aspect of English do you spend the most time teaching and doing? And I'm going to paste them into our chat window. Where do you spend your time? What do you spend your time doing? So please go into breakout room for about 5 minutes or so, to discuss these things and also discuss maybe the results from the questionnaire that we had. So 5 minutes, discuss how do you teach? Please share your ideas together. You have about maybe 3 people in each room, maybe 2 people, okay? So let's wait and see. All right, see you in about 5 minutes time.
อาจารย์กำลังจะให้เราเข้า breakout room นะคะเพื่อไปอภิปรายประเด็นต่างๆที่ทุกท่าน
Hello, if anybody's here, if you can hear me, you've been asked to join a breakout room to answer some questions.
Yes, thank you, but my internet lost and then I connect again. I don't know how my room.
Okay, thank you. I will move you now. Is this Atika?
Yes,
Okay, I'll put you into room. I think it's 18.
thank you.
Yeah, I'll put you in room 17. Yeah. Hello, Sally. Can you hear me, Sally? Hello, Sally. Are you there? Sally, are you with us today, Sally? Okay, hello everybody. I think you're back again. Thank you. Okay, please mute your mics. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's continue. So that is just time for you to think about what you do. We will not spend time now discussing this, but I want to now move on to understanding what form-focused or language-focused learning is. So from now on, for the next about 30 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking about a little bit of background, a bit of theory, and some ideas for you to think about how you structure your learning. About language-focused learning. What is language-focused learning? Notice that language-focused learning is sometimes also called form-focused learning. Form-focused learning. These two names are kind of very similar, form-focused and language-focused. So today you'll hear me talk about both form-focused and language-focused. Of course, you understand what language is. Maybe you're not sure what form means. So this is a kind of technical word that we use in language teaching when we're talking about aspects of language. So when we talk about the form of something in English, we're talking about the form of a piece of language or a piece of grammar. We're referring to its shape, its spelling, and the spelling and this one, yeah? So it's the shape, spelling, and sound of an item matched to the meaning. Matched to the meaning. So the meaning of this, its form is its shape, that is the spelling, and the sound. So we say apple, yeah? We don't say apple, we say apple. That's how we sound it. So when we're talking about the form of something, we're talking about the shape and the spelling. So this also applies to grammar. So the form of this, going to, the full form is be verb, going to, and then the base verb, be going to do something. We don't say be going fishing. We don't say be going to fishing. We say be going or am going to. Clothes on Sunday. We have like plus verb plus ing, meaning enjoy. I enjoy watching TV. And we say like plus to plus base verb, like to do, not like doing, like to do something. It's a good idea. So there's a difference between like watching TV and like to wash. In British English, which is my form of English, there's a difference between like doing and like to do. In British English, like doing means I enjoy doing it, right? I enjoy fishing, or I enjoy playing with my daughter, or I enjoy reading books. But like to do, or I like to do, in American English, this is the same. It also means enjoy. But in British English, it's a little different. I prefer to wash them on Sunday because the other days I'm busy. And if I don't wash them on Sunday, I'm going to be smelly this week. So this is about like to do, thinking it's a good idea. So this is the form of this, like plus VING, like to plus V. So this is the form here. We also say need to buy some shoes, not need buying some shoes. So this is what we mean when we're talking about the form or the language focus. So here we're actually talking about forms. In one way, we can think about the grammar of a language. This would include the tenses like present tense, past tense, and so on. Relative clauses like the man who I met yesterday. Verbs will, shall, should, and so on. This is what we typically call grammar. And we also typically think about vocabulary in terms of there are different types of food, body parts, types of buildings, and so on and so on and so on. But there's something in the middle here. Yeah. Apart from these two, there's actually something in the middle, like these ones, like so and such. It is such a nice day. It's so big, despite or in spite of. However, moreover, these conjunctions, the comparatives, bigger than, smaller than, superlatives, the biggest, phrasal verbs, for example, like to lay down or to get along with, and some verb patterns that we have. These are also forms. But between the two, these actually are, this is so and such, despite, and however, these are words, these are vocabulary, but they have a grammar focus also. So we call this lexicogrammar, right? So when we put them together, all of that together, we will call forms, both the grammar itself, the vocabulary, and the lexicogrammar. Now, if we take a look at a typical grammar book like this one, I don't know if you can see it, Grammar in Use, this is the world's most popular grammar book. Let's look at what that means. So let's try to understand, what do we mean when we say teach grammar? Teach grammar. So this says English grammar. What do many people think when they hear this word grammar? Tenses and the modal verbs and relative clauses and word order, and we have vocabulary. We see them as two separate things. But actually, a lot of things that we call grammar isn't actually grammar. Some of them is, the tenses, the word and relatives. A lot isn't. Phrasal verbs, verb patterns, conjunctions like however, moreover, that, and so on. These are conjunctions, which are kind of vocabulary, and countable versus uncountable nouns. We teach, for example, one book, two books. Yeah, we would talk about one child, two children. So we have a lot of things that's in the middle as well, right? So the correct way to really talk about this is not grammar, but we should really talk about of the book. I'm sorry you may not be able to see this, but these are the tenses, these are the tenses, these are the modal verbs, if sentences and the passive and reported speech and so on. Here, these are verb patterns. The articles and nouns, these are actually vocabulary, but at the same time, grammar. These are kind of lexicogrammar. So here we have some verb expressions. Let's look at the next page. We have singular and plural, noun phrases, a tennis ball, a headache. Does that seem like grammar to you? It's not really grammar, is it? It's vocabulary. Myself, there is, some, any, are. These are kind of lexicogrammar, somewhat in the middle. Yeah, although, in case, unless, as, like, and so on. These are lexicogrammar. These are lexicogrammar. These are verb patterns and so on. So my point here is that when we say I teach grammar, if you think of grammar in the big way, that is, grammar includes all of these things, then really you should be using the word forms rather than grammar. Grammar is part of form, and that's why we call this form-focused learning section. Form-focused learning section, not just grammar-focused learning, okay? So I just want to understand about this. So what does language-focused teaching or language-focused learning actually give? Deliberate attention to language features. I'm focusing on this grammar, this vocabulary. I'm focusing on learning modal verbs. I'm focusing on learning will and going to. I'm focusing on the or an. So I'm focusing on this. Your attention is on that. It's also often new information. So when we're teaching this, we're teaching something new to the students. So here's a new piece of language, another new piece of language. Notice that we're teaching in pieces of language, a piece of language. There's also, when we teach form-focused learning, there's a focus on rules. We want to tell what the rule is. We say this, we don't say that. We say be going to is about teaching rules. And the language teaching is done in controlled ways. That is, the activity that we do focuses exactly on what we're teaching. So we're focused, for example, on past tense. We're focused on relative clauses. We're focused on learning words for buildings. And that is getting it correct, making sure that the students understand it. So in the form-focused, language-focused teaching section, we will teach something. Maybe here's a new rule, here's a new piece of grammar, and then we would often test it. So we'll teach and test to check they understand. And if they don't understand, we need to teach again. And as I said, language-focused teaching, this is what we're focused on. So let's now look at how this appears in reality. So before we were looking at the meaning of form. So if we look at the form of vocabulary, let's say we have the word apple, we have the meaning, we have its spelling and its pronunciation. So there are actually two stages when learning vocabulary. The first stage is this form-meaning relationship, where we match the meaning to its form, its spelling or pronunciation. And when we're teaching vocabulary, unfortunately, most people stop teaching. We teach, here's the word, this is its spelling, this is how you pronounce it, and this is the meaning of it, or translation. But there's another very, very large number of things that we need to know in order to be able to use the word well. So it's fine to teach something so they understand it. But if you want to use it in your speaking and in your writing, then you'll need to know these things as well. You'll need to know the multiple meaning senses of a word. So for example, the word bar. Bar can be like a bar of soap, or it could be to bar someone from entering a building, or it could be a bar where you get drinks. So bar has several meanings. We also need to know whether the word is free. How do we use this word? What are some of the ways we can use it? And what are some of the ways we cannot use this word? What register is it? Is it polite? Is it casual? Is it a rude word? Can I use this word with my teacher? Can I use this word with my superiors? Do I use this word for children? Is it slang? Is it spoken? Is it written? Is it formal word? Is it an informal word? So if we only teach this, if we stop teaching here, students will find it very difficult to use the word. Also, another important part of vocabulary learning is the speed at which you can find the word in your head. To be able to use a word, so part of the learning of vocabulary and the learning of grammar is to make sure that of grammar and vocabulary you can access quickly. We also need to teach collocation and colligation. That is the way that words go together. So for example, we say he has blonde hair. We don't say he has yellow hair. Okay, so these are collocations. Now, when we're looking at vocabulary learning, there's actually so much to know about a word. There is the form, how it's spoken, how it's written. What are the word parts like unhappy or happiness? We also have to know the meaning of the word and how do we use the word? What patterns does it appear? What types of words do we need? But I want you to understand that the teaching of a language, the teaching of vocabulary is much more than just teaching the meaning and its spelling and pronunciation. If we want to use it, all of this knowledge must be available to us. Similarly, when we're talking about the teaching of grammar, we need the form meaning relationship. We need to know how is it made? Be, going, to, do. We need to know what it means. It's talking about planned future events. And how do we use it and how does it sound? We say be going to, not be going to. Okay? So we need to teach the form of it. We need to then teach the meaning. So we're connecting the form and the aspects of vocabulary. We have deep aspects of grammar too. Again, you need to know the multiple meaning senses. How is this grammar used in many different ways? What are the different ways that can or could are used? They're not one meaning, they have several meanings. How frequent are they? When can we use it? When can we not use it? Is the grammar polite or not? Do I say, can I have the apple? Or could I have the apple? Would you mind doing something? Will you do something? So it matters how we use it. And again, fluency and speed. We need to find this grammar in our heads quickly. And this is important because the words that we choose will change the meaning. Caught, late, bus, and man. We can put them in a different order with completely different meanings. So we can say the man caught the bus because he was late. Now this image would be something like this. This man is late. Usually he walks to work, but today he's late, so he took the bus. And this is the mental picture we have with these words, caught, late, bus, and man, in this order. But if we change the order, the man caught the bus, so he was late. This has a different picture. Oh my gosh, I did the wrong thing, catch. We've changed the order of the words and we've changed the meaning. Similarly, the man caught the late bus will change the meaning to something like the man is going home on the bus because he's been working hard or he's been out drinking or with a party at friends. Pardon me. So here, as I was mentioning to you before, about this section here, meanings change depending on what words are used. The meaning of a sentence changes depending on how the words are constructed. So it's important we don't just teach the grammar, we need to teach and give students opportunity to see how the words affect the grammar. How the words affect the grammar, how putting words in certain orders changes the meaning. Let's look at another example here. Again, if we say the sentence, I played football, you're going to get this picture. If you say, I played the trumpet, again, we have the same word. All of them have the same grammar. I played, and then noun or noun phrase. I played a movie, tells us you put it in the CD. I played with her hair. This tells us that maybe you're being quite romantic. I played with his mind. Again, same grammar. We have subject, verb, and a complement. It's exactly the same grammar, but very different meanings. I played a cowboy at Halloween. So this is to do with acting and pretending. I played a joke on him. I played the market. You're thinking about finance. I played the field. He's cheating on his girlfriend. And the last one, I played with my friends. In English, we use play with my friends to talk about playing with children. We don't talk about playing with friends as adults. However, in Japanese, people often say, I ask them, what did you do on the weekend? I played with my friends. In English, we think that means, oh, your friends are children. But in Japanese, no, it's people the same ages, the same, yeah? Same age is also fine. They also played with my friends. When you play here in Japanese has a different meaning from in English. So the point here is, although they have the same structure, subject, verb, and then complement, then it changes the meaning completely. And students need to learn how words and grammar are quite different, yeah? But how it changes the meanings. So now we need to think about how is English typically taught in Thailand and what do teachers do? What does an average typical teacher do in Thailand? What is their theory of language learning? What do they do and why do they do this? The next question we're going to be looking at is, how are textbooks typically structured? If we pick up a textbook, like the one I showed you before, what does a textbook design look like? What does a typical textbook look like? And what is the idea behind that textbook? Why does the book present language in that way? Why does it do things in what order? Why does the book choose this language, not that language? We're going to look at this now. And we're going to look at the benefits and drawbacks to using only textbooks. So this is the next section. So let's now look at a typical course book. Now, your course book is probably not exactly the same as this one, but it probably looks a little bit like this. I'm talking here about children who are a little bit later, maybe they're 8, 9, 10, maybe middle school students. Obviously, this is not for very young children, people starting English. So what are some of the features of a typical course book? Well, the first thing is we have a unit title. We have a text, so students read some text. Usually the text is not very long, maybe 20 words, sometimes 50, sometimes 150. We have some keywords, noon and spins and multiply and so on. And these words the book is trying to teach. So we have some difficult words and we have maybe some definitions. So the first part to the book is we're teaching something. We're introducing language. We're introducing vocabulary. And in the next section, on the next pages of our book, we will have some exercises. We will have comprehension exercises, we will have vocabulary exercises, and some grammar exercises. Now, my guess is your textbook has the same structure. It has the same design. Of course, the topic is different. The grammar topic you're teaching is different, but think about it in terms of what it does. Yeah, most textbooks would teach something. There would be reading or maybe listening. There'll be some difficult words, maybe some new grammar, and maybe some definitions. Then we follow it with comprehension questions, grammar questions, vocabulary questions. And my guess is that your textbook and your classes are like this. So let's look at the contents page of a grammar book. Let's see what the book is trying to do. So this is the contents page of this book. So we have different units, Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4, and so on. We also have different parts to the book. So we have some vocabulary. In Unit 1, we're teaching alphabet, names, and greetings. Unit 2, we're doing numbers and family members. Unit 3, personal items, and so on. Now, I'm sorry if you can't see this very clearly, but I want you to notice that we have different units, different things the book is trying to do, the functions, the structures, the pronunciation, the reading, the listening, the writing, and so on. And notice also that it's different. So the structure here, the grammar is the be verb, my, your, a, and an. In the next unit, we have the be verb with our, your, his, and so on. Down here, we have the verb have got. Down here, we have where and prepositions like in, ought, and so on. There is, there are. And pronunciation changes also. So I want you to look at this because understanding what the book is doing is a very important thing to be aware of when you're teaching. So let's look again at what's happening here. What is a typical syllabus structure? Well, we have different units. We have each unit has different grammar, and each unit would have different vocabulary, maybe different pronunciation, different reading skills, and so on. But I want you to notice something extremely important about this, because under this design, there is a theory of language. There is an idea about how we should teach. And what is that idea? Well, the idea is that we teach something in the first unit, teach be verb and teach simple adjectives. We'll teach this and teach this. We'll teach this and teach this. But notice importantly, these daily routines, like I get up at 7 o'clock, I clean my teeth, I have my breakfast. These words will not be in Unit 5 about travel. These words on sporting and present continuous will not be in Unit 8 about my health. So the point here, what's happening is we have a line, and we call this a linear syllabus. Linear means line. And what this is saying is we taught something, the be verb, we taught the simple adjectives, therefore they learned it, because this does not come again. The theory is we only need to teach something one time. We only need to teach it one time, and we're not going to teach it again in the book because the teaching was perfect, because the teaching made the students understand and they will never forget. That's the theory. We only need to teach one thing. We don't need to teach it again because they've learned it. And of course, all of us know students will not remember. Just because we've taught something does not mean that it's been learned. So we call this one-hit teaching. This model, this idea of teaching is one-hit teaching. It says, I only need to teach something one time. Tomorrow I'm going to do something new. On Wednesday, I'm going to do something new. On Friday, I'm going to do something new. Because my teaching on Monday was perfect. How about you? Is this how you teach? How much of your teaching is new? And how much of your teaching is going back and looking again, going back and looking again? Because your textbook has this structure. But I want to now show you an image. And this image is the most important image in education. The most important image in education. And I'm not talking about teaching English. I'm talking about any education. Teaching physics, learning chemistry, doing history. It's the same thing. And the finding here is very strong. This is one of the strongest findings in educational psychology. So I'm going to ask you a question. This here is today. We have time and knowledge. This is today. And you have been teaching something. And today you taught 20 new words. In your class, you taught 20 new words. How many of those words will your students remember tomorrow? How many will they remember this afternoon? How many will they remember on next weekend? How many will they remember at the end of the semester? And the finding shows that that's going to happen. We're going to have things forgotten. We know this. And if you don't believe me, please tell me the names of all of your students in your class last year. Can you tell me? No. Can you tell me what clothes were you wearing on Thursday last week? What was the name of your primary school English teacher? Of course you can't remember. It is natural that we forget some things. So we call this the forgetting curve. And everything we do in our classes has to fight forgetting. So let's look at this another way. This is the same picture. So our textbook will teach something, but a lot of knowledge is lost in the first 20 minutes, in an hour, and so on and so on. This is the typical thing. So if we're teaching from a textbook, we absolutely know that students will forget half of what we teach by the end of class, and most of what we teach by tomorrow. We know this. Science tells us this. So our job as teachers is to fight the forgetting curve. We have to fight forgetting. If we don't fight forgetting, we have a problem. So let's go back to our structure. If your textbook is like this, with new, what's going to happen? That's going to happen, right? So if as teachers, we spend a lot of our time teaching new stuff, new things, new stuff, and we don't go over, we don't recycle, we don't teach again, we know students will learn. Unfortunately, the design of many of our course books does not have enough meetings with the words and grammar for them to be learned deeply. You might get surface level understanding. You might understand we say be and going to do, but can you use it? Can you use it well? Maybe the students cannot. Maybe they will just simply say, I going to swimming, rather than I am going swimming. So students may remember part of it, not all of it. So the problem here is that many students will learn something from their course book or from materials that you teach, but by the end of the semester, a lot of that is forgotten. So just imagine we have a student who has been in your class, they love your class, they love your textbook, they did very well, they tried very, very hard, they get 10 out of 10 points on every test. They love your class. But tomorrow is the end of semester test. And they go back and look at their textbook because they want to study before the test, right? But they open their book and they look and they go like, huh? I don't remember this. What? This is my writing? So they've forgotten a lot. So what does the student think? Well, the student thinks, well, it can't be my teacher. I have the world's best teacher. What's the problem? It can't be my textbook. It was published by Cambridge. Oh my gosh, Cambridge must be good. It can't be the book. It can't be the teacher. There must be something wrong. And the only place the student can think of is themselves. It must be me. I must be the stupid one. I hate English. Now, many students do not like English. And one reason they do not like English is they honestly try. They try and do their coursework, they try and do their tests, they try and learn, they try and study, but at the end of the semester, they've forgotten it all. So they think, oh, English is not for me, English is too difficult. And they give up. If we teach only using this structure, if we teach only using this design of new, we know students will forget. We can guarantee students will forget. And probably we can guarantee we're going to kill motivation. So I want to ask you about the way that you teach. How much of what you teach is new and how much is previous learning? And the research suggests to us that we should only be teaching about 20 to 30% new things. 70 or 80% should be going back, looking at old knowledge and deepening that knowledge. So what we need to do is to make sure we have that learning. So here is our first learning, as I mentioned before. We have our textbook. Our textbook will do the first learning, but we're going to be forgetting. So we need to study again. We need to review. But again, we're going to have forgetting. So we need to study again. But again, they're going to get forgetting. But we need to study again. And notice that the knowledge is getting a little bit higher each time. So how do we do this? Of course, we can't teach the textbook 20 times. That's going to be boring. We also need to make sure that students meet words in different patterns. We saw that before with the man caught the late bus. The man caught the bus, so he was late. With I play the trumpet, I play with her hair. We need to make sure that students meet the language again and again and again and again and again in different ways. And we do that with extensive reading and extensive listening, which is meaning focused input, language focused input, meaning focused input. And we'll come to talk about that a little bit later. So when we're doing extensive reading, we're using some books. And the idea here is that at the very beginning, students will start with very, very easy reading books or listening books on phonics. Okay? And when they've mastered phonics, they go to the easy grammar and easy vocabulary books. These books have very, very short, not many words in them. So students read 20 or 30 books at this level and they deepen their knowledge. Then they go to the next level. They read 20 or 30 books at this level, deepen their knowledge, make it strong, and they go up and up and up and up. And in the end, we get to native materials. So how does this work? So we need to do two things. We need our language-focused, form-focused learning. Please continue to do that. But we also need to make sure that this language and grammar and vocabulary, that this language gets met again and again and again and again before we move on. We need to make sure that this grammar and vocabulary is met again in these books before we move. If we move too quickly, then the students will have gaps in their knowledge. So these books, level 1 books, have only this grammar and only this vocabulary. When the students have learnt it in their course book and deepened the knowledge in the reading, we can now move to unit 2, move to level 2. So in these books, they have this grammar and vocabulary, new grammar and vocabulary to meet again, plus the previous vocabulary and grammar. When they've met 20 or 30 of these books and deepen that knowledge, they then move to level 3 books, which has this grammar and vocabulary, plus this grammar and vocabulary. So what you can see here is a system. There's a very carefully controlled system. The textbook will teach something, probably teach it and drop it, because Unit 2 has something different. The reading books will deepen that knowledge at the right time before forgetting is too strong. If we don't have these books, then a lot of forgetting is going to happen. So we need to make sure students are studying the language and deepening that knowledge. Okay? And I'm going to talk more about this later. So why is it that many teachers and many course books teach this way? Why do they do this? Why do we teach a lot of the pieces? And part of the reason is that many teachers and many students have a theory. They have an idea in their head about how to teach and how to learn. So imagine tomorrow you went to Spain. You're going to Spain and you want to learn Spanish. What are you going to do? How are you going to learn Spanish? What would most people do when they were wanting to learn Spanish? Well, probably what they would do is they'd go to the bookstore. They'd go and find a grammar book. They would go and get a dictionary. They would maybe get a course book, and so on and so on. And notice, that's this. Language-focused learning. Okay? That's what they would do. And part of the reason for that is they think about language learning like building a wall. So when you build a wall, you need bricks. You need the bricks to build the wall, right? So many students would think, I need to collect words like we collect stamps. Yeah. So I'll learn the word book. Now I'll learn a piece of grammar. Now I'll learn another word and another word. And I'll keep learning grammar and words. The idea is that students think their theory, their idea is, if I keep collecting words and I keep collecting pieces of language, I will have my English. So that's why they study books like this. Many students think, if I master this grammar book, if I master my vocabulary book, I have English. That's the idea. So that's why students spend so much time learning pieces and pieces and pieces and pieces of English. Learn a piece of English, learn the grammar, learn a piece of it like may, for example, or they learn ought, or they learn going to, or they learn words like eyebrow and diverse and logarithmic. But there's a problem here. When you're building a wall, you need more than bricks. The problem is that learning in this way, by learning only in pieces, when students need to communicate, the wall falls down. They can't communicate because they can't put the words and grammar together. So they will say something like, me go shopping, Serm Thai, very good, new dress, red, boyfriend happy. That's how they will speak. Now, you understand them, but they're talking in words. They're not talking in sentences. So the problem here is that when you build a wall, you need two things. One of them is bricks, the other is cement. We need to have two. So students need to see how words go together, like blonde hair. We say blonde hair, but we say yellow car. We do not say yellow hair. We do not say blonde car. So we also say get out of the car. We don't say get out car, out of the car. We say go by bus, not go at bus, not go for bus, not go to bus, go by bus. We say need to buy, not need buying, and so on and so on. So students need to master these connections. We need to master these connections. And we do this with lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of meeting of language. We need much more than our grammar book and textbook. So I've started today by looking at how many teachers and many students see language learning. How do they see language learning? What's their theory? What's their idea of how we teach? And what we've looked at is that many people teach only the starting of a word. We teach apple and apple and apple. We don't teach the deeper parts. The same with grammar. Very often students don't meet the language again and again and again and again and again and again. So there's a lot of forgetting happening. So we also saw that the structure of course books is all focused on new. Sometimes the textbook may have a review unit. Say unit 4 is a review unit. But the review is not very deep. It's a very surface level. And there's not enough grammar and not enough vocabulary in the books to master deeply. So we learned about the forgetting curve and how it's important to remember that students will forget. And our main job in our classes is to fight the forgetting. So we've talked about what to learn. We're now going to talk a little bit about how students learn. What is the process that we go through when we are learning something? So let's think about that. So let's imagine you are a student. You are a student. And you see this sentence in your book. So you have a textbook, you reading something, and you saw this sentence. The girl saw the ancient temple in the jungle. Now, as a student, you don't know this word ancient. Imagine, you don't know this word. Now, you know it means old, and I know it means old, but let's just imagine the student does not know this word. So what's the first stage in learning? The first stage would be to notice something. Oh, this word, ancient, and I don't know this word. The girl saw the ancient, I don't know how to pronounce it. Now, I notice it, but I don't know what it means. I can guess. So let me now guess what I think it means. So the girl saw the ancient temple in the jungle. What does this mean? Okay, temple in the jungle. Okay, maybe it's like Angkor Wat or something. And Angkor Wat's kind of lovely temple. It's kind of a lovely temple. The girl saw the lovely temple in the jungle. Oh, yes, that makes sense. So I think that ancient means lovely. Now, of course, the guess is wrong, but this is her guess. Now, our student, our imaginary student, is a good student, and the student has thought that ancient means lovely. So the student goes to class the next day and meets the teacher. And the student thinks, good, here's my chance to learn my new word, ancient, meaning lovely. So then she's going to try it out. So she noticed she did not know. She guessed and added it to our knowledge. And now she's going to try this word. She's going to experiment and test this word. Is my meaning correct? So the teacher says, what did you have for lunch? And she says, I ate an ancient sandwich. It's like, what? Ancient sandwich? What? Right? Now the student here thinks ancient means lovely. Now she's tried it out, she's made a mistake. Now what happens? She gets feedback from the teacher. It's like, huh? Ancient sandwich, are you okay? Do you need to go to the hospital? And the student says, what? But ancient means lovely, right? No, the teacher says. It means old. Huh? Says the student. Ancient means, the girl saw the old temple in the, I see. So now the students noticed. So she's completed this cycle. She knows that I ate an ancient sandwich is wrong, and now she's noticed, and she now thinks that ancient means old. So she's noticed, she added it to her knowledge, she tried it out, she got feedback from outside, she noticed she was wrong, she's changed her knowledge. So now, the next day, the student comes to class and says, oh, hello, what did you do yesterday? Oh, yesterday I went to the shopping mall and I met my ancient teacher. It's like, huh? Your ancient teacher, you're so rude. What? Ancient teacher, my teacher's old. Yes, says the teacher. Yes, I understand that, but we don't use ancient with people. We use ancient with things like buildings or temples. The student thinks, the girl saw the ancient temple, old thing. I notice now and I change my knowledge. So what we have here is a student going around and around and around this cycle. And we call this the cycle of learning. The cycle of learning. So please remember that. I think it's on the test. So please remember this. So the point is that students notice something, they add it to their knowledge, they try it out, they get more feedback, and they keep doing this. Why do I mention this to you? Well, if you think about the way that many people teach, the course book will help you to notice something and will tell you the meaning, but the amount of speaking and writing where you can try for yourself is very small. Not many opportunities to use your language and to experiment and to try. Because you cannot, most textbooks don't have enough production opportunities to learn, therefore they cannot get feedback on their production. They will not know they made a mistake. You only know you made a mistake if you use it. If you use it, you can have people listen to you, and then you will notice that you made a mistake. Many course books cut the cycle of learning because there's not enough chances to practice. So we're now going to take a break for about 15 minutes or so. During the break, I'd like you to think about what we have been doing this morning, yeah? And I want you to think about these things. As you are thinking in your break, I want you to think about how much time do you spend introducing new things and how much time do you go over previous learning? Is it 80%, 20%, or is it 90%, 10%, 60%, 40%? How much time do you spend going to the next unit or going back over the previous one? How much time do you give students tests or helping them learn? How much time going through your course book or making your own materials? Do you give students chances to go through our cycle of learning? Do you give students a chance to go through our cycle of learning? Do you give them chances to notice something new? Do you give them chances to add it to their knowledge? Do you give them chances to try it out in their speaking? Not in a test, in their speaking, their writing. Do you give feedback on their success? Do you help the students go through this cycle of learning? And how much time do you spend fighting the forgetting curve? So we're going to take a break for about 15 minutes or so. During that time, I'd like you to think about this and reflect on your teaching and your courses and what you do. All right, let's take a break for 15 minutes or so.
แล้วระหว่างนี้นะคะอาจารย์ก็ให้ผู้เข้าอบรมทุกท่านช่วยคิดถึงประเด็นเหล่านี้นะคะว่าเวลาสอนเนี่ยค่ะเราใช้เวลาในการทำสิ่งต่างๆเหล่านี้ประมาณเท่าไหร่หรือเป็นกี่เปอร์เซ็นต์นะคะแล้วเดี๋ยวเราพักกัน15 นาทีแล้วก็กลับมาคุยกันค่ะขอบคุณมากเลยค่ะ
เ กตัญญูขออาสาเชิญชวนพี่น้องคนไทยทุกคนมาร่วมใจกันพัฒนาการศึกษาไทยกำไรสุทธิทุกบาทจะมอบเป็นทุนการศึกษาให้กับคุณครูนักเรียนให้กับโรงเรียนของรัฐทุกตำบลกตัญญูขออาสาเชิญชวนพี่น้องคนไทยทุกคนมาร่วมใจกันพัฒนาการศึกษาไทยกำไรสุทธิทุกบาทจะมอบเป็นทุนการศึกษาให้กับคุณครูนักเรียนให้กับโรงเรียนของรัฐทุกตำบล
วัสดีครับน้องๆวันนี้โครงการของเรานะครับจะเป็นโครงการติวเพื่อสอบเข้าม .4 นะครับในโรงเรียนชั้นนำทั่วไปก็จะมีส่วนของวิชาต่างๆไม่ว่าจะเป็นคณิตศาสตร์ฟิสิกส์สังคมและภาษาอังกฤษเป้าหมายของการติวเนี่ยเราคือต้องการที่จะสอนให้น้องเนี่ยพร้อมสำหรับการสอบเข้าม .4 โดยใช้โจทย์ต่างๆที่อยู่ในสนามแข่งขันแล้วก็สนามสอบเข้าเพื่อให้น้องๆคุ้นชินแล้วก็มีไอเดียต่างๆในการทำโจทย์เพิ่มขึ้นตัวพี่โอ๊ตเนี่ยจะมาสอนในส่วนของวิชาคณิตศาสตร์โดยที่น้องๆจะเจอพี่วันอาทิตย์ตอนบ่าย 3 เป็นต้นไปแล้วก็จะมาดูกันว่าข้อสอบต่างๆของเลขเนี่ยเวลาสอบเข้าม .4 มีความยากกว่าในโรงเรียนเยอะหรือเปล่าแล้วเจอครับน้องๆ
English is a very interesting and useful language. Sometimes it's difficult to understand, but you have nothing to worry about. I will be here to guide you and support you. สวัสดีค่ะทุกคนคะคุณครูพี่อิ๋มนะคะพี่จะเตรียมเนื้อหาหลักและข้อสอบวิชาภาษาอังกฤษเพื่อให้น้องๆได้เตรียมความพร้อมเราจะพบกันทุกๆเย็นวันพฤหัสบดีค่ะเวลา 18:15 นาทีถึง 19:15 นาทีทางช่องไลฟ์แล้วพบกันนะคะ
สวัสดีครับพี่เก๊กนะฮะสุทธินัยธรรมโสพลสกุลนะครับพี่จะมาสอนวิชาฟิสิกส์ให้กับพวกเรานะฮะทุกวันพุธเวลา 6:15 น.ฟิสิกส์ไม่ใช่เรื่องยากนะฮะเรียนง่ายๆสบายครับสไตล์พี่เก๊กนะครับแล้วไว้เจอกันนะครับ
สวัสดีครับครูชื่อครูออฟนะครับนายสุรศักดิ์ชวาวุฒโธนะครับรับหน้าที่ในวิชาสังคมศึกษาศาสนาและวัฒนธรรมสำหรับใครๆนะครับที่ต้องการเทคนิคนะครับไปสอบนะครับในวิชาสังคมศึกษาที่จะเข้าสู่ม.ปลายนะครับสามารถมาเจอกับครูออฟได้นะครับแล้วมาติดตามนะครับว่าเราจะมาเรียนรู้ยังไงเพียงแค่น้องมีอินเทอร์เน็ตใช่ไหมครับน้องก็สามารถมาเรียนฟรีกับพวกเราได้เลยนะครับแล้วอย่าลืมนะครับมาสมัครกับพวกเราแล้วเจอกันนะครับบ๊ายบาย
สิริมงคลนะคะกับผู้เข้าอบรมที่อยู่ในซูมนี้นะคะเกือบ500ชีวิตนะคะรวมไปถึงผู้ที่รับชมผ่านทางFacebook Live นะคะของมูลนิธิศักดิ์พรทรัพย์ด้วยนะคะเราจะขอกราบเรียนเชิญนะคะท่านรองศาสตราจารย์ดร.ทิศนาแข็มมณีนะคะได้มากราบให้กำลังใจเชื่อมต่องานของเรานะคะว่าเรามีทิศทางแล้วก็มีความคืบหน้าที่เราจะดำเนินการต่ออย่างไรได้บ้างนะคะเพื่อเป็นกำลังใจในช่วงเช้าวันนี้ค่ะ
คณะครูไทยใหญ่ต้องสร้างหลายคนต่างมีคำถามแอบสงสัยวันนี้ต่างเติมเต็มพร้อมออกไปเปี่ยมสมรรถนะครูไทยที่ท่านเติมวูก้าเวอร์การศึกษาจำต้องปรับให้พร้อมรับฉลาดรู้เราต้องเพิ่มโลกเหวี่ยงทิ้งถ้าเราสอนแบบเดิมๆสมรรถนะคือสิ่งเติมสุดจำเป็นการอบรมครั้งนี้ช่างดีนักวิทยากรรู้ประจักษ์ทุกเชิงเช่นท่านดร.ทิศนาผู้จัดเจนผลงานเด่นส่งเสริมการศึกษาไทยขอขอบพระคุณวิทยากรอีก3ท่านร่วมแบ่งปันเร่งระดมความคิดใหม่ดร.กุลทรีดร.นาถฤดีแนะด้วยใจดร.บังออนผู้มีไฟตลอดกาลณวันนี้เราพร้อมแล้วกับการเปลี่ยน เสริมสมรรถนะให้นักเรียนพร้อมทุกด้านทั้งความรู้ทั้งทักษะทั้งกระบวนการเจตคติสร้างสรรค์สุดสากลค่ะก็ตอนนี้นะคะเราก็พักกันเรียบร้อยแล้วเชื่อว่าทุกท่านนะคะน่าจะสดชื่นแล้วก็พร้อมกับการแปลสรุปคร่าวๆให้นะคะเมื่อเช้านะคะที่อาจารย์ร็อบได้บรรยายได้อธิบายไปนะคะเดี๋ยวมิ้นขอสรุปคร่าวๆให้นะคะประเด็นที่อาจารย์อยากจะฝากไว้ที่อยากจะเน้นมากๆเลยสำหรับครึ่งเช้านะคะขอเริ่มที่สไลด์แรกนะคะสไลด์ที่ทุกท่านเห็นอยู่บนหน้าจอเลยค่ะในสไลด์นี้นะคะอยากจะบอกว่าการเรียนคำศัพท์ค่ะทุกท่านแบ่งเป็น2ขั้นตอนด้วยกันค่ะขั้นตอนแรกเราจะมุ่งเน้นไปที่ความสัมพันธ์ระหว่างรูปแบบกับความหมายนะคะในขั้นตอนนี้ค่ะเราจะจับคู่ระหว่างเสียงหรือการสะกดคำกับตัวคำศัพท์ทีนี้เป็นเรื่องที่น่าเสียดายมากๆเลยที่การเรียนการสอนคำศัพท์เนี่ยมักจะหยุดที่ขั้นตอนนี้ค่ะซึ่งอาจารย์ได้เน้นไปในช่วงเช้านะคะว่าไม่อยากให้หยุดขั้นตอนการสอนหรือการเรียนคำศัพท์ที่สเต็ปนี้เลยนะคะทีนี้ไปต่อที่ขั้นตอนที่2นะคะขั้นตอนนี้ค่ะมุ่งเน้นไปที่การช่วยให้ผู้เรียนได้ใช้คำศัพท์หรือเข้าใจวิธีการใช้คำศัพท์ในขั้นตอนนี้นะคะเราจะมุ่งเน้นไปที่การสอนความหมายที่หลากหลายของคำศัพท์บริบทในการใช้กฎเกณฑ์ระดับความเป็นทางการและความสุภาพของภาษาแล้วก็คำที่มักใช้คู่กันเป็นต้นค่ะ next slide please ในสไลด์ต่อไปนะคะทุกท่านจะได้เห็นว่าตรงเนี้ยเป็นรูปของโครงสร้างบทเรียนในหนังสือเรียนทั่วไปนะคะที่ทุกท่านน่าจะมีความคุ้นเคยนะคะทีนี้ในทฤษฎีเขาบอกว่าอะไรทฤษฎีเขาบอกว่าสิ่งที่คุณครูได้สอนไปเนาะเนื้อหาบทเรียนอะไรต่างๆที่เราได้สอนไปเราเข้าใจไปเองว่านักเรียนของเราได้เรียนรู้เรียบร้อยแล้วนะคะซึ่งทฤษฎีนี้เขามีชื่อว่าการสอนเพียงครั้งเดียวค่ะทีนี้เดี๋ยวเรามาดูกันนะคะโครงสร้างบทเรียนส่วนใหญ่ในหนังสือเรียนเนี่ยมักจะมีโครงสร้างเหมือนกันก็คือโครงสร้างที่เน้นว่ามีการสอนเพียงครั้งเดียวในแต่ละหัวข้อนะคะเรามักจะสอนหัวข้อใหม่ๆในแต่ละคาบซึ่งอาจจะเป็นหัวข้อเกี่ยวกับไวยากรณ์คำศัพท์ทักษะการอ่านหรือการออกเสียงเป็นต้นสิ่งที่เกิดขึ้นก็คือเรามักจะเน้นสอนหัวข้อใหม่ๆและสิ่งที่เราสอนไปในแต่ละคาบก็ไม่ได้ถูกนำกลับมาสอนอีกในคาบถัดไปค่ะซึ่งวิธีการสอนในลักษณะนี้เรียกว่า one hit teaching หรือการสอนเพียงครั้งเดียวแต่เราทราบกันดีค่ะว่านักเรียนเนี่ยมักจะลืมนะคะ next slide สไลด์ถัดไปนะคะสไลด์นี้ค่ะสิ่งที่อาจารย์อยากให้ทุกท่านสังเกตเลยก็คือเส้นกราฟการลืมนั่นเอง
เนาะหรือ the forgetting curve นะคะรูปนี้เป็นรูปที่สำคัญที่สุดที่คุณครูจะได้เห็นในวันนี้กันเลยทีเดียวนะคะรูปนี้ค่ะแสดงให้เห็นว่าเวลาที่เราสอนอะไรใหม่ๆในวันนี้นะคะ 50% ของสิ่งที่เราสอนจะถูกลืมภายใน1ชั่วโมงแรกและอีก 70% ค่ะจะถูกลืมไปภายในวันแรกซึ่งรวดเร็วมากเลยนะคะโดยปกติแล้วค่ะผู้เรียนจะจำความรู้ที่ได้เรียนได้ประมาณ 80-90% หลังจากเรียนไปแล้ว1สัปดาห์ซึ่งมันก็หมายความว่าการที่ผู้เรียนเนี่ยเขาจะจำอะไรได้จำสิ่งที่เขาได้เรียนไปได้เขาจะต้องใช้เวลาในการจำนะคะซึ่งเวลาตรงนั้นก็คือประมาณ1สัปดาห์หลังจากเรียนไปแล้วนะคะ next slide สไลด์ถัดไปนะคะเป็นสไลด์ที่เกี่ยวกับความจำเนาะความจำของเรานะคะจะมีความที่แข็งแรงขึ้นถ้าใช้เวลานะคะหน้าที่หลักๆของคุณครูก็คือต้องช่วยนักเรียนให้สู้กับกราฟการลืมนะคะรูปนี้นะคะเราจะเห็นภาพได้ชัดเจนมากขึ้นเราจะเห็นปริมาณความรู้ที่ได้เรียนลดลงอย่างรวดเร็วหลังจากได้เรียนในครั้งแรกข้อมูลนี้นะคะเป็นการค้นพบที่สำคัญทางด้านการศึกษาเลยและถือว่าเป็นศัตรูต่อการสอนทุกสิ่งอย่างเลยนะคะหน้าที่หลักๆของพวกเราในฐานะคุณครูก็คือต้องสู้กับการลืมด้วยการนำสิ่งที่เคยสอนไปแล้วกลับมาสอนซ้ำๆอย่างเป็นระบบค่ะ next slide และสไลด์นี้นะคะก็โฟกัสในเรื่องของใช้หรือลืมถ้าไม่ใช้ก็ลืมนะคะคืออะไรเนาะในการสู้กับกราฟการลืมนั้นเราจะต้องเห็นสิ่งที่เราได้เรียนไปเรื่อยๆสม่ำเสมอนะคะทีนี้ถ้าเราไม่ได้เห็นมันบ่อยๆเนี่ยความรู้ที่ได้ก็จะลดลงอยู่ดีดังนั้นเราจึงต้องได้เห็นมันบ่อยๆซึ่งวิธีที่จะช่วยให้เราเห็นสิ่งที่เราได้เรียนไปแล้วได้บ่อยมากขึ้นก็คือการอ่านและการฟังอย่างกว้างขวางซึ่งภาษาอังกฤษเราเรียกว่า extensive reading และ listening extensive listening นะคะก็คือ extensive reading แล้วก็ extensive listening นั่นเองนะคะการอ่านและการฟังอย่างกว้างขวาง the last slide สไลด์สุดท้ายที่มิ้นอยากจะมาสรุปให้ทุกท่านได้ฟังในวันนี้นะคะก็คือสไลด์นี้นั่นเองนะคะเขาบอกว่าการอ่านหนังสือเนาะควรจะสร้างเสริมไปกับความรู้ที่เราเคยได้เรียนรู้มาแล้วที่เราเคยได้พบเจอมาแล้วนะคะสิ่งที่อาจารย์รอบอยากฝากไว้ตรงนี้เลยก็คือให้สอนทีละนิดค่ะและย้ำสิ่งที่สอนก่อนที่จะไปสอนเรื่องใหม่เพื่อที่นักเรียนจะได้มีความรู้เรื่องนั้นได้ลึกซึ้งมากยิ่งขึ้นอันนี้ก็คือเป็นการแปลสรุปใจความสำคัญหรือประเด็นสำคัญเมื่อเช้าที่อาจารย์ได้ถ่ายทอดความรู้ไปนะคะหลังจากนี้ค่ะเดี๋ยวเราจะมาเรียนรู้กันต่อนะคะ so now the floor is yours อาจารย์รอบ
Thank you. Just a second. Okay, let me go back and I will okay. Okay, so this is what I wanted you to think about during the break. And we had some comments saying that many people, yes, as I expected, spend too much time on the new stuff and not enough on the old stuff. So let's move on. So the second session is for you to think about the activities and things that you do. Yesterday and later today, Ajahn Tati and all the other speakers will be giving you lots and lots of tips and hints and strategies and ideas about how to teach. They'll be teaching you techniques, teaching you things to do, various activities, speaking activities, writing activities, games, and so on and so on. So I want you to now think about, what do these games mean? How do they fit together? How do these activities that I'm doing fit the big picture of language teaching. How do I know what the right balance would be? How do I organize these activities into a logical sequence? And what framework should we use to organize the learning? So that's what we're going to be looking at now. So when we are doing language teaching, there are many, many different activities that we do. We use our grammar book or maybe YouTube, our textbook. We use storybooks. Sometimes we may ask the students to read an article from the newspaper. We do memorize dialogues, memorize dialogues and so on. We use a dictionary, we use gap fill. So these are different activities that we do. Sometimes the students may read together or listen together. They may use their dictionary. They may use word cards or flashcards for learning. They may want to write a letter or a postcard to a friend. They may want to, you may listen to the teacher teaching something. That's another activity that we do. You might be completing some kind of a test. Your students may be watching YouTube. Your students may have opportunities to talk together. You may be asking your students to make a presentation. You may be studying words. You may give them a list of words like this and say, please memorize them. There's a test tomorrow. You may be doing comprehension activities or grammar activities or context activities. You may be asking them to read storybooks. You may ask them to fill in the blank, read the newspaper, write an essay, and so on and so on and so on. So the question is, how are these activities going to be taught? What is the function of these activities? What are they actually doing? And how do they fit the picture of language learning? So here are some activities. We have teaching something, dictionary work, a grammar book, intensive reading, that's study reading, language awareness activities, word learning, controlled language production activities like we saw before of the gap fill, language and pronunciation drill like repeat after me, gap fill exercises, memorize dialogue, person A, person B would have a dialogue, tests, and so on. Easy reading, easy listening, watching movies, browsing the internet, listening to radio or music. Free language activities like speaking, chatting with your friends, conversations, debates, discussions, emails, and so on and so on. These are different activities. So my question is, what's the difference between the left and the right? If anybody has an idea, please type it into the chat window. What's the difference between the left and the right? Now, don't look at the PDF, no cheating. What's the difference between left and right? Can anybody see the difference between what these things are doing? Yeah? What are these things doing differently from these things? If you know, type it into the chat window.
อาจารย์ก็ขอให้ผู้เข้าอบรมนะคะช่วยพิมพ์ในแชทบ็อกซ์นิดนึงค่ะว่าสิ่งที่ท่านเห็นทางด้านซ้ายมือกับทางด้านขวามือเนี่ยค่ะเขามีความต่างกันยังไงนะคะ
Okay, nobody's typing. Okay, well, the ones on the left are receptive, that is input. So this, of course, is listening and, well, they're all techniques. Thank you, Pia Cook. All of these are techniques. All of these are techniques, yeah? So these are receptive activities. These are listening and reading activities where we're getting input. We're listening or reading something. Productive is where we're speaking or using language, okay? Using things. So you've got here, right is evaluation. Yes, here. Is an essay evaluation? Is a debate evaluation? So we have a difference also between the top and the bottom. How are the top activities different from the bottom activities? And given the topic of today, you can see that it's language-focused learning. Language-focused learning. The bottom, meaning-focused learning. Meaning-focused learning. So let's look at this one more time in this box. So we have some activities which are receptive. That is, they are listening or they are reading activities that focus on learning something, learning on something. Here, these activities focused on the language when you're using the language in controlled ways, where you get a right answer or wrong answer, correct pronunciation, not correct pronunciation. So this is focused on accuracy. Down at the bottom here, we have meaning-focused activities. The reason we read, the reason we listen or watch movies is to understand the story. We're not really there to look at the movie to learn new words. We're there to watch the movie and enjoy the story. The same here. We are debating or we are speaking, we are writing our words, our meaning. Yeah, this is not what somebody else has told us to write. So we have this difference between all of them. So basically we can see these are the activities that we've got here. Okay. And as you look at this, you can see that these ones here are receptive, these are productive, these are focused on language-focused learning activities, where you're learning a piece of language. You're learning the piece of language and you're testing and trying out your piece of language. You remember we talked about the cycle of learning, learning something, trying it out. So we need to understand the different purposes. The focus of the language-focused learning activities is to learn something and test or check our understanding. The focus of the meaning-focused input and output is to read or listen to something to understand, to get deeper knowledge of English. And here we are writing our essay and we're speaking to try out our language, like we saw in the cycle of learning. So let's look at each of these boxes differently. So we need to understand the function of the activities we do. We need to make sure we have a balanced curriculum, not much of one, not too little of the other. We need to ensure the learners understand the activities they do, and they need to know why they are doing them, and make sure the learning is effective and efficient. So we do this with a good, balanced curriculum. So we have 4 boxes here. This one we'll call box 1. This one here is box 2, box 3, and box 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this box is the learning stuff box, learning something, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, through listening and reading. This box is checking our understanding in controlled ways with tests or accuracy activities. Here, this is about building connections. This is about building depth. So students will read a lot or listen a lot. Why? So that they can build their connections between the words and grammar. And this one here is experimenting or trying out your language. Do you remember in our cycle of learning, the students will try out their language, realize they made a mistake, and the teacher says, no, 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 no. Ancient does not mean lovely. Ancient does not mean old, okay? Old for people. So let's look at each box individually. In this box, the aim is to build language awareness, basic study skills, build the form-meaning relationship that I talked about before. How do words and grammar sound? How do we write them? How do we spell them? How do we use them? How are they formed? And discriminate the meaning senses between things and build derivational knowledge, like adding unhappy, happiness, and so on. So this is all about learning stuff. And we do that with a dictionary, word cards, teaching by the teacher, studying words, doing our textbook input, and so on. The next box, box 2, is the check you understand box. These are activities that check you understand or can pronounce correctly, can spell correctly, and so on and so on. It also helps you choose the correct word. Do I say, for example, borrow, or do I say lend? And you can check if you know whether to say borrow or lend. And this is about accuracy, getting something correct. And if you get it wrong, you go back to the first box. And we do that by writing again and again and again and again and again. We do that with checking comprehension by studying the grammar activities, filling in the blanks. This is filling in the blank. This is checking understanding. This is a test. Checking understanding, checking I get it right, checking I did learn something in box 1. Box 3 is about massive language practice, lots and lots and lots and lots of practice to deepen and strengthen the knowledge. It's about building fluency and speed, so make sure you can find words in your head quickly and automatically. It's about building the sense of how words and grammar go together. How does the meaning change if we use different words with the same grammar? We saw that before with catch the late bus. He caught the bus, so he was late. And with I play football, I play a trumpet, I play with my friends. So we need to see how the words change the meanings with the grammar. We need to build contextual background knowledge. Students need to learn about the world. You need to build network deep knowledge, building connections between words, building associations between language pieces, and learning to read naturally and listen naturally at your ability. So you should be able to read quickly at beginner level, for example. And building autonomy. Autonomy is independence. The idea here is to build independence from teachers in course books. And we do that with reading storybooks like these ones and so on, yeah? And we talked before about how this is happening here. So we talked before, this is the box 3. This is the box 1. We learn something new, and here we deepen that knowledge, okay? Learn something new, deepen that knowledge. That's box 3. We can do this with online. So there's a website called ercentral.com, has lots and lots of free listening and free reading at many, many different difficulty levels, for beginners all the way to advanced. That's a free website for you to use. And as a teacher, you can register your institution, you can upload your students, and you can check their data. It has a learner management system. So you can tell the students to read something, and you can check what did they learn. Every text has a test. So it's free, completely free. Or if you want to use X-Reading, is another reading platform, has reading and listening. This is not free. It has lots of books by Cambridge and Cengage and Collins and eFuture. So this is another very good way to build your reading ability. Sometimes students would read a newspaper, as I said, listen and understand the story, listen to YouTube, and so on. And in the final box down here, this is the try it out box. So this is where you learn to write and speak naturally by making mistakes. We try, repeat, try, fix it, try again, fix it, try again, fix it, going round our cycle of learning. We do this with debates, discussion, and so on. It's important to do this so they can get feedback. When you use it, somebody will say, what do you mean? You know you've made a mistake. So you can experiment with your language, and you can build autonomy, build independence here. And the types of activities we do with that one would be our essays, maybe writing a postcard, chatting with a friend. Okay? So, how much do you remember? What does TBC stand for? I mentioned it before. What are the two columns, left and right? What are the two rows, top and bottom? Which is the checking understanding box? Which is the speaking your mind box? Okay, so in the chat window, please. Answers, please. First one. TBC means? Okay, anybody? The balanced curriculum, excellent. What are the two rows? Sorry, the two columns? We saw that up here. Receptive and productive, yes. Okay, what are the two rows? Good. Which is the checking understanding box? Box 1, 2, 3, or 4? 2, very good. Which is the speak your mind box? Speak your mind box is 4, very good. Learning stuff box. 1, very good. Building connections box. Box 3, excellent, yes. So the TBC stands for the balanced curriculum. The two columns are listening and reading and writing and speaking. Language, study, meaning, focus are the two rows. Yep. And so on and so on and so on. Okay. The checking understanding box is number 2. Speak your mind box is number 4. Learning stuff box is number 1. Building connection box number 3. Okay. So this is our balanced curriculum here. And Ajahn Mintra, just very quickly, if you want to just mention that. It seems that people understand. Maybe we don't need to speak. Ajahn Mintra, do you want to say something?
ก็ได้มีการแปลสรุปคำสำคัญนะคะให้ทุกท่านแล้วนะคะเมื่อกี้ค่ะก็อาจารย์ได้พูดถึงหลักสูตรสมดุลนั่นเองหรือเราเรียกกันว่า a balanced curriculum นะคะซึ่งในหลักสูตรนี้ค่ะเดี๋ยวสไลด์ถัดไปจะมีการแปลสรุปให้ทั้งหมดเลย The next slide shows the translation, right?
This is the translation, yeah. Can you see the translation slide?
I can.
Yes, okay.
ค่ะตามสไลด์ที่เราโชว์อยู่นะคะก็ในหลักสูตรสมดุลเนี่ยค่ะก็จะมีการแบ่งนะคะอย่างที่ทุกท่านทราบกันเลยก็คือเราจะมีการแบ่งสกิลก็คือ receptive นะคะซึ่งเป็นทักษะการฟังและการอ่านและ productive skills นะคะก็จะมีทักษะการพูดและการเขียนการฟังและการอ่าน receptive skills นะคะอยู่ทางคอลัมน์ทางด้านซ้ายมือค่ะคอลัมน์ทางด้านซ้ายมือแถวบนนะคะจะเป็นในเรื่องของสิ่งที่เราใช้สำหรับการเรียนเนาะส่วนคอลัมน์ทางด้านซ้ายมือด้านล่างนะคะเราจะเน้นถึงการสร้างความเชื่อมโยงเราสร้างความเชื่อมโยงเพื่อที่จะช่วยให้ลูกศิษย์ของเราหรือให้นักเรียนของเราค่ะได้ฝึกในเรื่องของความคล่องแคล่วแล้วเราก็จะเน้นกิจกรรมที่ให้เขาได้ใช้ภาษาเน้นการสื่อสารเนาะอย่างเช่นการอ่านหนังสือนิทานหรืออ่านหนังสือนั่นเองนะคะหรือการฟังนะคะอันนี้ก็จะเป็นในเรื่องของ receptive skills ส่วนทางด้านขวามือ productive skills นะคะทางบนช่องบนสุดเลยนะคะก็คือตรวจสอบความเข้าใจเนาะอันนี้จะเป็นเน้นกิจกรรมที่เน้นการตรวจสอบความเข้าใจส่วนคอลัมน์ทางด้านขวามือด้านล่างนะคะจะเป็นการให้นักเรียนทำกิจกรรมก็คือให้เขาพูดในสิ่งที่เขาคิดในลักษณะกิจกรรมตรงนี้จะเป็นกิจกรรมที่ไม่ได้เป็นอะไรแบบควบคุมนะคะจะเน้นภาษาที่เน้นการพูดแล้วก็เขียนแบบอิสระไม่ได้แบบมีแบบอะไรที่เป็นการควบคุมนะคะอันนี้ก็คือเป็นการแปลสรุปนะคะที่อาจารย์จะได้เห็นบนสไลด์เลยว่ากิจกรรมต่างๆไปอยู่ในช่องไหนบ้าง นะคะถ้าเราดูกันอีกทีนะคะอย่าง receptive ใช่ไหมคะด้านบนสุดคอลัมน์ซ้ายมือเราจะเน้นในเรื่องของการสอนตัวภาษาอย่างชัดเจนเลยค่ะกฎ grammar เป็นอย่างไรอธิบายเข้าไปให้ชัดเจนเลยนะคะหรือจะเป็นการใช้ dictionary นะคะการเรียนจากหนังสือไวยากรณ์การอ่านอย่างเข้มข้นการอ่านอย่างเข้มข้นในที่นี้เราพูดถึง intensive reading นะคะคืออ่านอย่างการใช้สมาธิโฟกัสอาจจะใช้เทคนิคในการอ่านเข้ามาช่วยเช่นการอ่านจับใจความ scanning skimming ต่างๆนะคะหรือเราจะทำกิจกรรมที่สร้างความตระหนักรู้ทางภาษาแล้วก็มีการเรียนคำศัพท์อย่างรู้ตัวและตั้งใจก็คือเราสอนคำศัพท์เลยค่ะอย่างเช่นคำศัพท์คำนี้แปลว่าอะไรใช้อย่างไรมีตัวอย่างประโยคให้นักเรียนได้เห็นอันนี้จะเป็นการสอนโดยโฟกัสในเรื่องของ receptives นะคะแล้วก็อยู่ในช่องที่เป็น language focused learning หรือการเรียนรู้โดยอิงหลักภาษานะคะทีนี้ถัดมาค่ะ so you want me to go through this
No, it's fine. Just as a review. We're going to have a quiz now.
all right
Okay. So here's a short quiz. Okay. So what about this one, everybody? This activity, is this a box 1, box 2, box 3, or box 4 activity? What kind of activity is this one? Yeah, go back to here. Is it learning stuff, checking understanding, building connections, or speaking your mind? What about this one? Please type in. This is checking understanding. Excellent. That's number 2. What about this one? This is a memorized dialogue. Okay, so this is reading. Now, if the students were asked to repeat this, so I am A and you are B. Okay, it seems we have some misunderstanding here. This activity here is a box 2 and box 1 activity. It's a box 1 activity because it's teaching you something new. So here, I'm really annoyed with, I'm really upset with. So it's teaching something new and you are reading. So therefore you can learn something new. But also it's doing box 2 because you are checking your understanding. So you are repeating the sentences here. So I'm really annoyed with my landlord. Why? He's forgetting to fix things. So you're practicing your pronunciation. So this is doing 2 things. It's teaching you something new, but also is practicing your pronunciation. Notice, this is not speak your mind box 4, because in box 4, you choose which words to use. Here, these words are decided by the book. Therefore, it is a language-focused learning activity. What about this one? The teacher's teaching something. 1, yes, good. Teacher's teaching something, learning something new. How about this one, where you have a reading text and questions afterwards? Reading text. Do you think this text is for study or for meaning focus? What do you think? It's probably more like 1 and 2 because there's lots and lots of words that maybe they don't know and it's very short and seems to be quite heavy. It's probably number 1. This is checking your understanding. So this is box 2, right? Name for the products. This is checking understanding. Okay. So this is box 1 and box 2. How about this one? Teacher reading to the students. Teacher reading. Reading is input. Are they focused on learning language or are they focused on understanding the story? Probably this is 3. Probably they're understanding the story, but the teacher may explain something. So if the teacher says explain, that's fine. It cannot be box 2 because box 2, the students are listening. The teacher's speaking, but the students are listening. This is a listening activity for the student, but the teacher is speaking, but the students are listening. So it's a listening, either box 1 if she's teaching you words, box 3 if she's focused on the story. How about this one? This is a test. 2, everybody, that's right. It's a testing activity. Excellent. How about this one? Are the students writing their own words? Are students writing their own words? No. This is filling in the textbook, isn't it? They've got a textbook and they're writing. Yeah? Yeah, they're writing here. They're writing here something in controlled ways. Is it their language? No. Is it their choice of words? No. This is a language test. This is actually box 2. This is a box 2 activity where they're listening and filling in the activity. They may be learning something new, but notice an important thing. They're holding a pen. If they're holding a pen, the hint is it's language study. If they're holding a pen, it's language focused learning. Giving a presentation. So here the student can say what she wants to say. It's her words, it's production. So that's right, it's box 4. Box 4, correct. How about this one? The teacher's telling a story. The teacher's telling a story. Probably this is, if she's telling the story, then it's meaning focused. If she's teaching words, it's 1, yeah? But notice, there's no book here. There's nothing really that they're studying with. They're listening, there's no pen in their hand. This is probably number 3. Language focus input, building connections. Beg your pardon. Meaning focused input, meaning focused input. How about this one? Students are reading by themselves. Can you see a pen? No pens. No pens. This is probably 3. Probably 3. Yeah, probably they're focused on the meaning. Yeah, I can't see any pens here. They may do some, they may look some words up in the dictionary, but probably it's going to be 3. And how about singing songs? Be careful here. Input or output? Exactly, yes, be careful. Do the students sing their own song or somebody else's song? Can they choose their own words to sing? No. Are these somebody else's words? Somebody else's words. This is box 2. This is box 2. This is a focus on getting the song correct. This is not about using my words. This is not about using my language. This is box 2. This is language focus, accuracy of pronunciation through speaking, through singing. Okay? So it's a little difficult to understand some of this, and some of you made some mistakes. So I would encourage you to watch this video again, but also look at the article that I put into the Google Classroom. There's an article there about the balanced curriculum. We'll hopefully sort this out. But do notice, of course, that some activities are both one box and another box. So in this activity, the singing activity, it's about accurate singing of the correct words. This is not actually using my language, okay? So be careful about that. But another big hint is if they're using a textbook, probably they're using, if they're using a textbook and a pencil, it's probably language focus, okay? So it's important that we have to teach the students the 4 parts of the balanced curriculum. We need to spend an appropriate balance of time in each box. We need to spend an appropriate amount of time in each box. Yes? We need to teach them how to use their dictionary well. Students are not born knowing how to use a dictionary well. Most students are not very good at dictionary, yeah? We need to teach them how to learn words effectively. Today is not the day for me to talk to you about effective word learning, but something called spaced repetition is important, where students have to meet words again and again and again and again and again. So using some apps are very important. We need to train students to guess the meanings of words from context. So when they're taking a test, they have no dictionary. When they're speaking with their friend from Taiwan, they won't be using a translation or a dictionary. They need to be able to guess what the other person is saying. So we need to build this strategy of helping them to guess the meanings of word from context successfully. This is the most important vocabulary strategy to learn. I'll say it one more time. This is the most important vocabulary strategy to learn. Training students to guess successfully what words and grammar mean. We need to train them to read faster. Why do they need to read faster? Because they need to read a lot. Because they need to build fluency. They need to find words and find grammar and understand quickly. And we do this through speed reading and easy reading practice. If the reading is difficult, they'll be slowed down and it becomes study reading or language focused reading. Students need to be able to choose the right kinds of material for them. When they're doing the box 3 activity, when we're doing the box 3 down here, the reading, individual free reading, free listening activity, we need to train them to be able to do this effectively. Make sure they can choose the right book at the right level, not something too hard, not something too difficult. If it's too difficult, it will become here. So we need to have the right the right kind of activities that are meaning focus activities. This is meaning focus, language focus. We have to train students to find something at their fluent, easy reading ability. Okay? So, questions, we move on. So, I want you now to think about these things. I'm going to put these questions into the chat window in a minute. And I want you to think about this. I want you to talk in breakout rooms for about 5 minutes or so about your class. Which box of the balanced curriculum do you spend most of your time in? Are you teaching stuff? Are you testing stuff? Are you helping to build connections? Or are you helping them to build their own connections through speaking? Which ones do you ignore? Which ones does your course book do? Does your course book have all 4 of these or not? Which ones does your course book ignore? And if you only follow your course book, what are you going to do about it? Do you think learners should be doing all of these things at the same time? Should they have 25% in box 3, 25% box 2, 25% box 1? Should we have 25% or should we have a balance? Would the time for each box differ by language level? Can we ask elementary students to write an essay? No. So I'm going to give you these questions now, and I'm going to put you into breakout rooms, and I will put the questions into the chat window. Okay? So please think about your answer to these questions. Please think about your answer when you're discussing in your groups. So please think about that now. I'm going to make groups. I'm going to put you back, or actually, let's recreate the rooms. Okay, so I'm going to put you into a room now. Please accept and go to the room for about maybe 5 or 6 minutes, and discuss your answers to these questions. Okay, let's go.
การสอนอะไรนะที่ในห้อง
ใช่ครับอย่างประเด็นแรกนะครับไอ4 ช่องของความสมดุลครับมันจะมีเรื่อง
ครูจะเน้นไปทางแบบ speaking and listening มากกว่า
ครับผมก็จะทรงนั้นครับก็ยังไม่ถึงเขียน
เป็นเด็กเล็ก
สอนป .6 ครับ
ใช่ค่ะ
ชั้นผมป .6 ชั้นครูภัยป.อะไรครับสามารถออกไอเดียเองอย่างเช่นการเอาไปเขียนหรือว่าพูดพรีเซนต์อะไรอย่างเงี้ยครับในชั้นครูภัยจะเน้นไปทางโฟกัสเรื่องสกิลไหนครับใน4 ช่องนี้
ส่วนมากก็คือตามหนังสืออันดับแรกก็คือตามหนังสือนะคะอันที่สองก็ให้เขาไปที่ให้เขาทำเป็นกิจกรรมกลุ่มอย่างเงี้ยค่ะ
ครับ
จะประมาณนี้ค่ะ
ครับก็อันนี้ไปประเด็นที่2ว่าชั้นพวกเราเนี่ยประเด็นอะไรที่เรามักจะไม่ค่อยใส่ใจมันน้อยที่สุดใน4 ช่องนั้นถ้าส่วนตัวผมนี้จะเป็นเรื่องการเขียนผมก็เด็กผมจะเขียนไม่ค่อยได้ผมเอาแค่อ่านให้มันได้ก่อนอะไรเงี้ยยังไม่ไปเชิงว่าเอาไปเขียนเป็นว่าเขียนประโยคได้นี่ผมก็ดีใจแล้ว
ของครูก็เหมือนกันค่ะ writing ก็ได้แบบง่ายๆเนาะเป็น
เติมคำได้ผมก็ดีใจแล้ว
ค่ะใช่ค่ะ
ก็คือเน้นการพูดการสื่อสารการเข้าใจก่อนที่จะเขียนมาทีหลังค่ะ
อันนี้ก็
คล้ายๆกัน
ส่วนมากก็จะละเลยไปนิดนึง writing ค่ะ
ครับ
ไม่ได้ค่ะ
ที่ผมก็ไปโฟกัสเรื่องสอบโอเน็ตอะไรเงี้ยบางทีมันก็ไม่เทิงเขียนอย่างเงี้ยเขาแค่อ่านเข้าใจก็ถือว่าดีขึ้นเยอะแล้วแต่มันก็ยังไม่ถึงจุดนั้นก็พยายามไปถึงจุดนั้นอยู่ข้อ3นะครับอะไรในหนังสือพวกเราเนี่ยเขาเน้นทักษะด้านไหนครับใน4 ด้านนั้นใน4 ช่องสมดุลนั้นในหนังสือที่เราใช้เรียนในห้องเรานะครับเขารูปแบบแต่ละบทเนี่ยออกแบบมาที่โฟกัสในเรื่องอะไรไปทางไหน
ส่วนใหญ่จะรับข้อมูลมากกว่า
ครับข้อ1ครับจะเป็นข้อ1ครับผม
ใช่
แล้วแบบฝึกหัดก็มีอันที่2นะครับมีแบบหัดทบทวนความเข้าใจพออ่านเรื่องแล้ว ฮะ
มีคำ
ดีครับแบบฝึกหัด
ครับ เรื่องเขียนก็ไม่ค่อยเท่าไหร่นะครับ
โอเค
ก็ถ้าเรื่องเขียนไม่ค่อยเท่าไหร่ก็ตอบคำถามประเด็นที่4ได้นะครับ ว่าประเด็นไหนที่ไม่ค่อยใส่ใจนะครับอย่างนี้มาถึงข้อที่5นะครับ should all learners be doing all 4 boxes เด็กทุกคนควรจะได้เรียนรู้ทั้ง4ทักษะไหมครับ
ควร
ในความ
ค่ะ
เห็นของแต่ละท่าน
น่าจะควรค่ะ
ครับก็ควรแต่ว่าแต่ละคนก็ควรแต่ว่าความเหมาะสมของแต่ละคนว่าจะรับได้มากแค่ไหนก็อีกแบบหนึ่งใช่ไหม
สามารถค่ะแต่ละบุคคล
ครับผมก็เห็นด้วยกับทั้ง2ท่านครับ
ระยะเวลา how
ครับ the more time
ใช่
ก็
differ by language level เวลาที่ใช้ในการกิจกรรมแต่ละช่องจะแตกต่างกันอย่างไรถ้าเทียบกับระดับภาษาของผู้เรียนก็มันก็ต้องขึ้นอยู่กับนักเรียนแต่ละคนด้วยนะคะเนาะว่าบางคนเรียนรู้ได้เร็วนี่ค่ะ
ครับ
เพื่อนบางคนก็ไปช้าเนาะเราฟิกไม่ได้ก็ต้องดูที่แต่ละคน
ความถนัดในการเรียนรู้ก็ต่างกันบางคนก็แบบฝึกบ่อยๆบางคนก็ขอให้เวลาเขาอ่านเขาไปเรียนรู้ด้วยตัวเองแล้วแต่ละคนความถนัดในการเรียนรู้
ใช่ค่ะเห็นด้วยค่ะ
ครับก็จะทรงนั้นเหมือนกันครับผมอยู่101ครับคุณครูอยู่ที่ไหนกันบ้างครับ
อยู่พะเยาค่ะ
พะเยาเหรอที่อยู่นครศรีธรรมราชค่ะ
นครอะไรนะครับ
นครศรีธรรมราช
อยู่ใต้เหนืออีสานครูฟอสอยู่ที่ไหนไม่รู้ครับเงียบเลยฟอสนี่น่าจะไม่มีตัวเลขด้วยไม่รู้ว่าเขาร่วมกับเราไหม
คุณหนึ่งเลยเนาะ
เขาเป็น
หรือว่า
เขาเป็น
หรือว่า
เขาเป็นทีมงานหรือ
กิจวัตรกิจเปล่านะ
ก็ไม่เป็นไรครับ
สอบกันเสร็จหรือยังขอนอกเรื่องหน่อยสอบกันเสร็จหรือยัง
สอบอะไรนะครับ
เสร็จครับพี่แต่ยังไม่ปิดเลยโรงเรียน
Okay. So what I'm trying to do now in this section is I'm trying to give you a framework. I'm trying to give you a structure that you can look at the activities that you do, the activities that you hear about on this course, some of the techniques, and a way to look at your course book and the materials that you use to decide what exactly are these things doing. Do I have a good balance? Am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? How am I helping them to build connections, right? As we said, we need to have meaning focused and we need language focus, yeah? So your kind of homework when you go home and when you go and look at your classes, your textbook, look at your textbook. Look at the things around you that you use for teaching and try and think which box they belong in. and use that as a structure to inform your teaching. Okay. We're now going to move on a little bit to look at some of the reminder of the difference between language focus activities and meaning focus. The language focus activities teach a language point. The language focus activities are usually the start of learning something, the first time that they meet something. It's not about deepening the knowledge, it's about first time. Usually we do that as a whole class. Everybody together learns the same stuff. Usually the activities are very controlled because you want to give a clear rule and clear explanation. And you try to make clear what rules are. This is very rule-based language teaching. Teach the rule, test the rule. Meaning focus activities are about practice. This is like going to driving school. When you're learning to drive, you go to driving school. You have a driving test. Whereas down here is driving on the road, actually practicing driving, yeah? So the focus here is on general understanding, deepen existing knowledge, building connections, experimenting with knowledge, working at their level and going at their own pace. So meaning-focused activities are things that are often not so common in Thai classrooms, my understanding, yeah? So this is the same information with the translations, okay? So please feel free to look at that a little bit later. So we have teach a language point, the start of the language, highly controlled, clear what the rule is, yeah? Meaning focus activities, practice the language, focus on general understanding, deepening the knowledge and so on, yeah? So that's the difference between these two. So when we're learning a second language, an L2, language 2, there are some principles we need to focus on. And these are things I've been talking about today. We need to spend some time focused on form. We need to spend some time teaching stuff, teaching vocabulary and grammar. Great. But students also need to spend time doing stuff. If they're only doing this and they're not actually practicing the language, there's a problem. Students need to develop connections through reading and listening and by trying out their language by speaking and writing. So they need to develop connections between grammar and vocabulary, not just learning new stuff, but building connections between them so that they know that it's correct to say beautiful girl, we don't say beautiful man, for example. We need to make sure that the language is social. That is, it's done through interaction with other people. The language must be socialized. That is, we have to do it through interaction. Just only from course books or from worksheets is not enough. We have to make sure that the language use is quality language. It's not boring English speak sentences. We have to develop the skills, all 4 skills. And we have to develop independent learning. We have to remember that we have one job as a teacher. You have only one job as a teacher. And your job, your only aim is to make yourself unemployed. I'll say that again. Your aim as a teacher is to lose your job. Because your job is to get people out of your classroom so they don't need you anymore. So we should be focused on developing independent practice, independent learning. And we need to have lots and lots of repetition, massive scaffolded practice. Scaffolded was, remember, building on previous knowledge. It must build on previous knowledge. So it's really key that we're doing that. And we can also develop critical thinking skills. So let's look at these things. The ones I just mentioned, here, the ones I just mentioned, where do they fit? Attention to form is here, language focus. Autonomy, meaning focus. Building connections, meaning focus. Checking understanding, fluency, skill development, time on task, socialization of learning, and quality language use. Notice, much of language learning is down here. Only some of language learning is at the top here. So if we really want to build our learners' knowledge, we need to make sure that they are learning those as well. So this is where we would suggest that the activities go. So language focused learning is attention to form, checking understanding, autonomy, skill development. These are all down here. This is our balanced curriculum. However, if we say that the students should be reading newspapers, websites, YouTube, movies, and so on, can your students read a website without a dictionary? Can your students watch YouTube without pausing? Can your students watch English movies and understand everything? Well, very difficult, right? Can your students read articles? Can they read Harry Potter without difficulty? Can they read smoothly and quickly? Or are they studying, right? My guess is if your students watch YouTube in English, or they pick up a native book or Harry Potter, probably they're going to be studying. They're probably going to need their dictionary. So the problem is that we have these things here, but very often websites, newspapers, YouTube, movies, they're actually language focus for most students because they don't have the ability to read it quickly and smoothly. So we have a missing piece of the puzzle. Something in our education system is missing, and we need to make sure that the students get that. And the thing that's missing is making sure that the meaning focused learning is good quality meaning focus. Language focused learning, we've been learning a lot about that. And most of you were saying that's nearly everything you do is this. So let's spend some time learning about this. So meaning focused materials, yeah? Meaning focused materials need to fight our forgetting curve systematically, not random, systematically. They need to allow learners to read and listen at their ability level. We need to build use through various contexts. We need to develop speed and automatic processing. We need to have massive amounts of time on task to build connections. We have to build awareness of discourse structure. Discourse structure means knowing the difference between an email and a letter, knowing the difference between a business letter and a letter to your friend. Help learners internalize to build this connection themselves. Notice, students need to build a sense of language. They need to build a sense of what's right and what's wrong. And we cannot teach that. We have to give them freedom to choose what they want to study and build autonomy. And socialize the learning by discussing what you read and what you listen to. So how do we do this? What's the key that would really, really, really help all of this? What activity does all of this? Extensive reading. Extensive reading looks like this. Students are reading something that they like, just reading a book that they enjoy. This is extensive reading. This is extensive reading. This is extensive reading. Choosing books that they want to read. Choosing something they want to read here. Is this extensive reading? How can you tell? How do you know if your students are doing study reading, language focused reading, or if they're doing extensive reading, meaning focused reading? How do you know? This here is not, this is not English, this is not an extensive reading class. This is language study reading. How do I know? What does she have in her hand? She has a pencil. If she has a pencil in her hand, she is studying something, right? There's a pencil in her hand, yeah? So what is extensive reading? It's the fast, fluent reading of storybooks with high levels of comprehension. You don't need a dictionary. The focus is comprehension, enjoyment, not on learning new things. Language study reading is about learning new things. This is not about learning new things. This is about deepening knowledge I already have. So deepen already met language. We do this with graded readers or level readers. So extensive reading and intensive reading, also known as study reading, are two sides of the same coin. Students need both. Intensive reading, study reading will build the language, but it will get forgotten. Extensive reading practices that language so it will be remembered. So they work together. They're not opposites. We need both. So we have two different aims. When we're teaching students to read, we can either teach them as learning to read or as reading and listening to learn. One more time. Learning to read, reading to learn. Very different. If you are using textbooks, worksheets, tests, if the whole class is doing it with the same textbook, you're focused on phonics or the alphabet or building vocabulary, new words and grammar, reading skills. If you're doing these things, you're doing this. If you're helping the students with reading books, fluency, focus on comprehension, building their natural reading practice, then you are doing extensive reading. They're very different. So think about the activities that you do. What are you doing as an activity? If you are doing this, you're building the language focus. If you're doing this, you're building meaning focus. Now, this is not to say, I'm not saying this is bad. I'm saying this is good. My point is, it's not enough. We need to have this and this. Learn something new, build the connections, build the depth, build your speed. So we have to make sure that the textbook, I beg your pardon, make sure the reading book they have is not too difficult. So if they don't understand, they will read slowly. They don't enjoy the reading. They don't enjoy the reading. They won't read much. And we have a bad cycle. If the books are easy, the student understands. They will therefore read faster. They will therefore enjoy the reading and therefore will read more. So this is the cycle that we want students to have. This is the cycle. So it's very, very important that students read at the right level. It's when doing extensive reading, students must read at the right level. They should be able to read something quickly and enjoyably with adequate comprehension so they don't need a dictionary. One more time. Read something quickly and enjoyably with adequate comprehension so they do not need a dictionary. R-E-A-D. If your students need a dictionary when they're reading, if they're trying to do extensive reading but need a dictionary, tell them to stop because it becomes study reading. Your aim as a student, your aim as a teacher is to build speed and fluency. If the language is too difficult, it becomes study reading. So the students usually read at home or out of class, maybe in the school library, and we add this reading to the classroom. We don't replace it. So what kind of material should you use? What's the right type of material? Graded readers. These are storybooks. There's about 5,000 or 6,000 of these books available, many of them available in Thailand, where you can buy them, or you can get them online. I mentioned before X reading. X Reading, and ER Central have these materials for your students. There are many different topics. Some of them are factual, some of them are fiction, some of them are about famous people, and so on and so on. There are thousands and thousands of them by many different publishers. So please go and check where you can find these things. So what do these books look like? Well, at the very easiest level, the very beginner level, the books only have, for example, one sentence, and a very easy sentence with very common, easy words. The next level would have, for example, 2 sentences or 3 sentences. We have speech marks now, but we have a big picture. All of it is easy words. In the next level, the sentences are longer. Now we have paragraphs. And the few more difficult words, sometimes 2-part words, passport, overnight. So the level of the student is higher. We're now using different grammar. The grammar is getting higher, and so on. The next level, fewer pictures, more difficult language, and so on. So movable letters, metal blocks, these are more difficult. So these books are for intermediate level students, not beginners. And then when you get to the advanced level, you have no pictures. It's all text, okay? Again, with some difficult words in here. So huts and grass, for example, underwear, okay? So you have to decide what type of material is good for your students. What do they need? Yeah. So as a teacher, you need to have books at all of these levels. You need to have some books here, some here, some here, some here, some here, some here, so that students can choose them. And one way to do that is the X Reading website that I mentioned before. So xreading.com has many of these graded readers for you, where your students can read or listen. There's tests and you can download their data. So xreading.com or, as I mentioned before, ER Central. Both of these will allow you to have this. So there's lots and lots of things in here, okay? So as I said, this is the key thing. You know your students are reading extensively if they can READ. Okay, I'm giving you this slide 2 times because it's really important. So you have to train your students to look at something and decide, oh, this is too difficult. I cannot read it quickly and enjoyably, and I cannot really understand it, and I need my dictionary. Put it down. Find something else. Okay? So we need to make sure that they're doing this properly, yes? So the next question, how much meaning-focused reading and listening should the students be doing? Well, do you remember this? You remember our textbook will teach it, but does not provide enough times with words and grammar. There's not enough meetings of word and grammar in the unit because next unit has something different. There's not enough here. The extensive reading is what you need. This is what we do. So how much of this do you need to be doing? Well, what do we know? We know that it takes between 30 to 50 meetings for a word to be learned receptively from incidental learning. That is, if you want to learn a word just from reading, you need to meet it 30 or 50 times to get here. 30 or 50 times. If you're doing intentional learning, say with word cards or some kind of vocabulary app, only 10 to 15 meetings. If you're doing it from normal reading, general reading, then 30 to 50. So at least 10 times you need to meet a word from word cards or word lists for it to stay in your head. That's what science tells us. But to learn the collocations, the word relationships, knowing how words go together with the grammar is going to take much longer. Unfortunately, we know very little about how long it's going to take to learn the grammar. Yeah. So if you're reading these books, one of these books is between 1,500 to 5,000 words long. one book, right? Often textbooks have 5,000 or 10,000 words. So in 1 month reading 1 book a week or 2 books a week, you're going to meet more language. Your students will meet more language than they meet in the entire textbook. 3 of these books or 4 of these books has the same amount of English as your whole textbook that you use for your year. 1 or 2 weeks of reading is the same amount of language as your textbook for the year. So here's a question for you. Please type your answers into the chat window. All right, we're nearly finished, not too long now. So how many words do students need to get into a good university? A, B, C, or D? What do you think? You'd say D. Correct, D. How many different words are in a typical junior high school textbook? How many different words? A, B, C, or D? A. Only 1,000 different words. And how many total words will they meet by the end of high school? If they do 3 junior high school textbooks and 3 senior high school textbooks, add all the words together, how many words will they meet? Answer A. Can you see a difference? This is the amount of language that they need to get to a school, good university. If they only do textbooks and no extra material, then it's 100,000 words. There's a huge difference. Textbooks are not enough. So how much reading should they do? Beginners, at least 1 hour a week. Intermediates, at least 1 hour a week. Now, these books are longer and so on. Why do I know this? Because we have a fight. We have a fight between meeting language and forgetting. So the amount of reading you need to do is there to fight forgetting. Yeah, these levels here are the minimum to stop forgetting, right? This is not the right amount. This is the minimum just only to fight forgetting. This is maintenance level only. If you want them to learn from reading, you need more. 2 hours or 3 hours. Advanced learners need more than that, okay? So today I've been talking about extensive reading just now. If you want to learn more about extensive reading, we have the Thailand Extensive Reading Association. Ajahn Mintra is the chair of this association. There's also a guide to extensive reading written in Thai, which was written by members of the Thailand Extensive Reading Association. And that's available from this link here. And maybe we can put that into the chat window as well for you. If you want to learn more about this extensive reading, please do that. If you want to learn more about extensive reading and also go over many of the things that I have mentioned today, this video here, available on YouTube, this video will go over many of the points I made earlier, which is about things like repetition of words. I talked about the linear syllabus. I talked about deepening words. I talked about the building a wall and the case for extensive reading. That is here. So many of the things that I've talked today are here. Please watch it again. There's also, you may be saying, oh, I don't have money to do this reading. Well, I gave you 2 websites that you could use, but here is another talk that I did on how to do extensive reading with no money and few resources. And these are both about 45 minutes, so please spend time looking at that. Now, you may be saying, extensive reading is a nice idea, but I have no time in my course. I'd like to do the reading, but sorry, we have no time. Or you may say, sorry, I have a curriculum. Sorry, I have to prepare my students for tests. Sorry, the books are too easy. They're not learning anything. These are common answers to what I just suggested. So here's my answer. Nice idea, I have no time. Where are your students going to meet the words and grammar they need many times? If you choose not to do this, there's not enough. And how will they build a sense of language? Because if you make it optional, students will opt out. If you have to go through your curriculum, speak with your course designers to change the curriculum to bring in extensive reading. If you have to prepare students for tests, there's a lot of evidence to show that students who read better do better on tests. And the books are too easy. Be careful. They need to be easy to build reading speed and autonomy. And native materials are often too hard and demotivating. So please be careful. Thank you for your time. I have 3 seconds left.
ตอนนี้มีคำถามจากผู้เข้าอบรมไหมคะ
I am happy to take some questions. If you have any, please put them into the chat window.
ถ้าใครมีคำถามนะคะสามารถพิมพ์ส่งคำถามเข้ามาในแชทได้เลยนะคะ
Notice that many of the answers to this will be in those 2 videos that I mentioned to you. But I would suggest that look at the activities that you've been doing on this course. Look at the activities you're going to be doing soon after lunch with Ajahn Tati. And think about what I've said about balance. Think of what I've said about form meaning versus meaning focus, form focus or meaning focus. Think about whether you have balance. Think about the cycle of learning and so on. Think about all of these things as you think about your future teaching, yeah? And your learning. If you're learning another language like English, you need that balance too. So make sure you've got them, yeah? Thank you so much. That's fine. My pleasure.
Sir, thank you very much for your speech and for everything, inspiration and knowledge. It's such an honor listening to you today. There's a question about using dictionary. Because this day we have online dictionary, like you typing and you got the answer, but the old-fashioned dictionary, just you need to open a book, the dictionary. So which one is better in your opinion, sir? Thank you.
Okay, well, there's actually 3 types of dictionary. One of them is a paper dictionary. Another one is the one on the web. And the other one, which is there's like a little, like a machine you can get, like a calculator or from your smartphone. Okay. I would say before looking at the dictionary, we need to train our students to learn to guess the meaning first. So before the problem is that you get what's called a dictionary reflex, which is read. Oh, I don't understand. Where's my dictionary? Many students have the instinct to go to the dictionary the moment that they don't understand. We need to stop that. We need to stop them and get them to think. What is this word? Can I guess this word? What do I think this word means? We need to build that strategy because they cannot use a dictionary on a test. They need to learn the guessing strategy first. But when they start to use a dictionary, we know from research that paper dictionaries are better than digital dictionaries. And the reason for that is because when you're in a paper dictionary, you have to remember it in your head. You have to look into your head. And you have to think about it. And as you're going to look for the word, you're repeating it in your head. There's a lot more information in one place. Digital dictionaries, we tend to use them like an instant hit. Whereas paper dictionaries have more information and you're more likely to spend more time reading and learning about the word and other parts of the word. With digital dictionaries, we often deal with like an instant hit rather than deep learning. And we know that generally speaking, paper dictionaries are better, but there's not a really big difference. There is a difference. I think that both is fine, but the more important strategy is to learn them to help to guess from textbooks. Yeah, I can see another question here. What textbooks are teachers choosing students? What textbooks are teachers choosing students primary 6 to 8 because they use the workbook? I'm sorry, I don't quite understand. Are teachers students using? Okay, so so your question, Ajahn Pai, is there's not only meaning focused input let me start again. So when you're doing the learning something new, when you're doing the box one activities, doesn't only come from a course book. You can come from your materials. So you're asking about your materials. If your materials are teaching something new, then they are box one language focus input activities. So I don't know without looking at your activities. But if your worksheets are things like have a discussion about something, they'll be box 4 activities. If your activities and your worksheets are having a test, they're box 2 activities. So the thing is, you need to decide for yourself, what is actually this activity doing, yeah? Now, course books do have some box 4 activities, like speak with your partner, right? Not all of a textbook is box 1, box 2. Most of the textbooks are box 1 and box 2. And very little reading, yeah? Okay? Ajahn Robert, you've shared this, very important. Your message has inspired me a lot. Thank you so much, Ajahn Field, yeah. I will be in Thailand in December and again in January. I would love to be able to meet some of you and discuss with you. If any of you are interested in me coming to talk to you or talk to your fellow teachers particularly about extensive reading, please let me know. If today you have decided that you want to do this extensive reading, this meaning-focused input, please come and talk to me or speak to Ajahn Mintra. They will help you to build these types of programs for your school. Yeah, please take a look at the guide, Introduction to Extensive Reading in Thai that was just put up before. Please take some time to look at that, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this course. And I'm sorry we're 5 minutes late. Enjoy your lunch.
ก็ต้องขอบคุณอาจารย์ร็อบในวันนี้และผู้เข้าอบรมทุกท่านนะคะตอนนี้ก็ได้เวลาไปพักเบรกทานข้าวเที่ยงนะคะแล้วก็เดี๋ยวช่วงบ่ายกลับมาพบกับอาจารย์ทัตติในช่วงสุดท้ายของโมดูล 3นะคะขอบคุณทุกท่านมากๆเลยค่ะสำหรับวันนี้สวัสดีค่ะ Thank you very much for doing this wonderful session for us.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Happy learning, everyone.
สวัสดีค่ะ
กตัญญูขออาสาเชิญชวนพี่น้องคนไทยทุกคนมาร่วมใจกันพัฒนาการศึกษาไทยกำไรสุทธิทุกบาทจะมอบเป็นทุนการศึกษาให้กับคุณครูนักเรียนให้กับโรงเรียนของรัฐทุกตำบลกตัญญูขออาสาเชิญชวนพี่น้องคนไทยทุกคนมาร่วมใจกันพัฒนาการศึกษาไทยกำไรสุทธิทุกบาทจะมอบเป็นทุนการศึกษาให้กับคุณครูนักเรียนให้กับโรงเรียนของรัฐทุกตำบล